Hello everyone, this is Manish here from Automation Code Lab. So today what we are going to do is we are going to understand OOPS concept. So what exactly is OOPS, guys? So OOPS is a fundamental basically aspect of architecture that we have objects, classes, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, encapsulation. Okay, so basically it is a core of Java programming which is used to design program using classes and objects. Okay, so it is also used to characterize as our data controlling for accessing the respective code. Okay, let us see an example. As I said, we have various four pillars of OOPS known as inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and encapsulation. So let us first try to understand what exactly is basically polymorphism. So polymorphism refers basically to many forms. Poly means many, morphism means state, so which shows many states. And in Java we basically have two kinds of polymorphism. One is known as compile time polymorphism, which is known as static polymorphism, and it is achieved through the method overloading, whereas something else is called as a runtime polymorphism, which is also known as dynamic binding, and what it is also called as method overriding. We'll see an example of it. I hope that you guys are able to see my screen. We'll first go ahead to see the respective method overloading. So method overloading in short is basically a method having the same name but different signatures. For example, we'll see an example. We see various classes, in this case cube area, sphere area, cylindrical area, right? So in this case, if you see my method overloading class, in the main method, what do we do is we are creating an object. So how do we create an object? We create an object through class name obj is equal to new class name over here. So we're creating the instance of a class that is an object as a CA over here. We're creating an object cube CA on the cube area, right? Similarly, for the sphere area that we have is, what are we going to do? So guys, so for similarly we have created different objects like SA for the class sphere area, CIA for the cyclic area. Okay, and so over here you can see we have different area method which take various parameters, right? In this case, correct? What are the different parameters? Now in this case, if you see for the cube area, what it is doing is we are trying to return a respective different value, and this, so the area for cube area, sphere area, or cylinder area is what it is different. So giving a same set of parameters over here is going to give me a different outcome. There can be one more way of doing let's say overloading. In this case, let's say if I do int area for cylinder area, I'll just give an example. I say int x, int y, and int z, right? And let's say what I'm going to return, I just return, for example, x plus y plus z. Okay, so in this case what I can do is I can also invoke, I'll just invoke a respective object here to print cia dot area. Now in this case I'll give x y z, right? I can give 5. So what will it take it? In this case we have two area methods, right? Cylinder area. So one which has two different parameters over here, okay, you can see, and is going to return double. So this with two parameter, it is going to call this area method which has two parameters. Okay, similarly over here which has three parameters is going to call this area method. So basically method overloading is methods having the same name but different signatures. Signatures can be the return type or the parameters as well. Now coming back to the overriding where I was explaining you guys, overriding is basically method having the same name and same signature. So there's going to be a conflict basically. So in that case, what generally the behavior is going to be that child, whenever you're going to when is this conflict going to happen? When we are creating an object on child class and invoking the same method which is present in the parent and the child class. For example, if you see my current square class has access to parents draw a number of sides, whereas child class also has its own draw a number of sides. Okay, similarly pentagon is also going to it has draw a number of sides, and it also contains shape class draw a number of sides. Okay, similarly for hexagon and all. So what happens, guys, exactly, if we create an object on S, ideally this shape class has an access to both the draw methods and number of sites of its own as well as its parent. So in this case, whenever we see, and in case if it is not a static, the child is going to exhibit its own property and is going to override the parent. So s.draw is going to call the child's methods, right? Not the parent. So you'll see square and side is equal to 4 being printed. Similarly, it is going to happen for all the other classes which has the same method. Okay. And there is something called as a super. So with using of super, you can call the parents method as well as parents constructor. I'll explain about constructor in the upcoming topic. But in case if I want to, for example, if I want to print both the things, what I can do is, for example, just to give you an example for square, I'll go ahead and print system.out.println. For example, I'll say super dot what? I'll just print, for example, draw. So here what it is going to do is, it is just going to print. What is it going to print? Sorry, my mistake. It will, we just need to call this, right? Yeah. Yeah. So it's just going to call the respective method. And from here, what will you do? From the child method itself, it's going to call parent. So now once I execute, you'll see for the square, we will be getting the outcome for both the child as well as the parent. So parent has your favorite shape and side is equal to 0. Okay. Similarly, you can see the respective called drawing. So it will print your favorite shape over here. You can see, right? And similarly, let's say if I do for super dot number of sides also here, we will see the number of sides also getting printed as 0 for the parent class over here. Okay, let me just run it and show it to you guys. See, after 4, you'll see 0. So I hope you guys are clear for super. Super is generally used to call the parent reference. So inheritance, basically, as the terminology itself says, what exactly is inheritance, guys? Inheritance is what? Inheritance is simply where it is going to is a method where one object can acquire or inherit objects properties. Okay, and we can have multiple types of inheritance like single, multi-level, multiple, hybrid, hierarchical, and all. Okay, but the funda for inheritance is, for example, you can see the animal as a base class, and child class or the derived class is the mammal, and we generally the child class is always going to extend the parent class. So here mammal is the child class, animal is the parent class. So what does this mammal going to have? Mammal has its own method nature, whereas it is also going to have access to the habit. Okay, so you can think of this mammal class will have both the methods, habit and nature. Similarly, now if you see bat class is going to have access to hobby, its own, and parent method, which is nature. Now in this case, nature sorry, mammal class had access to animal also, so indirectly this is hierarchical. So bat class is going to have access to hobby, nature, and habit. How? Through the chained inheritance. Okay, now in this case, if you see, I'm creating an object on the bat class B, and I'm going to exhibit all these things. So if I go ahead and run this code, you will see that in this case, it goes ahead and prints the respective statement. Okay. Now talking about the next topic that we need to take is encapsulation. Now what exactly is encapsulation, guys? Okay, so encapsulation is one of the core concepts for OOPS, where it is a process that binds the data and the code into a single unit, and it keeps from say from outer interventions and misuse. So basically data is hidden from other class and can only be accessed through the current class's method. How do we do that? We'll see through an example. So if you see, I have various methods over here. For example, if you see, encapsulate class has various methods like get height, get name, get weight, set weight, etc. Set name, set height, etc. Okay, now if you see, I have 3 private variables. What are these 3 private variables? Name, height, and weight. Now, as you know, private variables cannot be accessed inside cannot be accessed outside the current class, and can only be accessed inside the respective class. So this test encapsulation will not have the access to the private private variables of the encapsulate class. But for example, I still need to perform the operation. So encapsulate is basically to, if I tell you in short, it is accessing the private variables using the public methods. How do we use it? For example, if you see, we'll see through an example. I've created an object on the encapsulate class over here, okay, and obj.setName, and I'm sending ABI. So what is it going to send? So ABI is going to be assigned to the my private variable over here, okay. this so if you see the name here, the new name is going to be assigned to my this name. Okay, so this is going to be assigned to Abhi. Similarly, 70 is going to be assigned to my weight. Okay, by using set weight, see this weight is going to be assigned, and similarly my height is also going to be assigned as 178. Now this is setting up, so this is basically indirectly setting up my private variables. By but if in case if I want to invoke it, right, if I want to invoke it, how do I invoke it? I'm invoking through the public method, which is just going to return the value. Okay, so this class basically cannot access the variables directly, but can access through the public method. So that is what encapsulation is all about. Now, talking about abstraction, guys, what exactly is an abstraction? So, abstraction is a process where it displays only the information that it need is required and hides the unnecessary information. Okay, so that is the main purpose of abstraction. For example, for data hiding that we use. Okay, so first understand that abstract. So whenever we say abstract class, uh, will have both abstract methods, okay, and normal methods, or called as a concrete methods. Okay, we'll see an example, and we'll be using the abstract keyword for that. So if you see, and what happens in extract basically methods and all, that you will see whenever we define a method abstract, only the declaration is so basically abstract method is going to be a method which has a method definition, but it does not have the implementation. So for example, see the class, we are using the abstract keyword over here, so this bike is an abstract class. But if you see drive, so drive you just declared, we have not defined basically over here, right? So it only have the definition to be present, but the implementation is not done. Implementation is done inside whenever we require to be used. For example, in the respective classes which is going to call this bike class. For example, if you see class Harley Davidson, it is going to extend bike. So basically this is a child class, bike is a parent class. So what it is going to do is the implementation of each of the respective class is going to be used differently. For example, in this case, this class is using drive to define it to print as old school yet relevant. Okay, so here if you see bike obj is equal to new Harley Davidson obj dot drive. Okay, and obj dot weight. So obj dot drive, basically drive was is what, a abstract method, whereas weight is what, is a concrete or a regular method. So why is abstraction used? It is basically to increase the reusability and to hide the data from the outside world for the mechanism. Okay, so I hope you guys are clear. What exactly is a constructor, guys? So constructor is going to be similar like a method, but it does not have a return type. Okay, and why is constructor being used? Constructor used to basically instantiate or define or um, basically to initialize the class or the instance variables. Okay, so here if you see this constructor and constructors are of two type. One is called as a default constructor which does not have parameters, and the second type of constructor is called as a parameterized constructor which has a parameter inside it. For example, if you see constructor obj1 is equal to new constructor, so constructor is the class. So constructor is going to be similar as I said, it is going to be similar like a method name, but it will not have a return type. You will see it does not have any return type, so it is not returning anything. Okay, and constructor automatically gets called whenever you are going to initialize or create an object, to be precise. Okay, so here whenever for example in this line, if you see I'm creating an object, in this case constructor is getting called, and in this case whenever a constructor is getting called, because this does not have any parameters into it, so what is it going to do? It is going to initialize the respective variable to language as Java in this case. Okay, folks. So now for the second object that you see, this is a parameterized constructor example where I'm going to give a parameter Python. So this Python is like a language over here, defined as language. And this is going to initialize the class variable or instance variable of constructor and will initialize the language as language. So if you see guys here, if the respective outcome, what we are going to see is, in this case, see, in the first case, it took the default value. Why? Because you have defined this dot language. In case I would not have defined here, in it would still what it would have given me, if you see, it would have given me null because I've not defined anything. Okay, whereas in the second case where I'm giving the parameter, it is getting defined, and so it is giving us Python as an outcome. So that's it for today. I hope OOPS concept we are clear with. In the next session, we'll take up other fundamentals. If you really like the video, guys, please go ahead, like, share, subscribe the respective channel, and comment for any queries that you have. Thank you. See you in the next session.